Creating a hero section is perhaps one of the hardest things to get down as a beginner in UI UX design. So today I'm just going to be focusing on that, and we're going to be creating a very simple hero section. Then we're going to be adding rules and principles into that design and making it more of a visually stunning and like more convertible hero section. So, where do we start? First of all, we always know that when we start to design, we don't start from a smaller viewport, but a larger one, so a desktop. I'm gonna name this landing desktop. Then we always, I think, we start from the background. Now, color choice is another thing. So regarding color choice, we have spoken on it like in 2 videos ago. I think you can check it out. But today I'm going to be focusing more on the concept of hero section. So today I'm thinking for the background to go for a color just of white, a bit of white. So I'm gonna be calling this color white, about like 800. Then we're gonna be working on first the nav bar. So why are we doing that? Obviously, your hero section can't exist without a nav bar. A nav bar is like a common part of any website, and you can't really visualize a hero section without including the nav bar. So for the nav bar, I'm gonna have a simple logo. Okay, I've just thought of this logo like a couple of days ago. It's very simple and nothing really complicated. Then we're gonna be adding circle here. And the idea of the actual website here is to create a website for a therapeutic like platform. So that's the point. And I'm gonna go for a color like a pinkish color here as one of our two primary colors. And I'm just gonna select it. I'm gonna group it first of all. Then I'm gonna flatten it. Actually, before doing that, I have to outline it a stroke. Then I have to flatten it. And then I'm gonna name this just logo. And we can go over here and make the black into a variable called black 100 and make this pink, say pink like maybe 600 here. By the way, 600, 100 is just a description of the lightness or darkness of the color. So here's our logo. Then next we need a name. I'm gonna call the website release, just a random name. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger at 16 pixels and semi-bold. We're gonna keep it enter for now, for today. Then we can go over and make the height maybe 16 pixels. Maybe you can make it 24, a bit big. Okay, maybe you can even increase its height to maybe 28. And 28 I think works well here. So let's group them, call them identity. And 8 pixel gap works fine. So here we have our identity part. Next, we will have our links. So first of all, we're not going to have any call to actions on the navbar. The reason for that is that the website is not like a software. It's not something you could sign up for. Rather, it is a therapeutic platform where you can just get in contact with the administrators of the website and get in touch and like figure out a way to have an affordable therapeutic plan. So for that reason, we're not going to have a call to action, but our primary motive for building the website will be to get the user in contact with the administrators. So first, we're going to have a link home. That's always like a common. You should always have a home link. About our products. Finally, services. And then we will have a contact link. Okay, now we have these links. Today I'm going to introduce you to the first principle here, and that is you can always create more interest in your design. You can always add more interesting stuff. So for example, you can see these links. They are all right. They are 14 pixels, regular line height, they are regular font weight, enter is a good font. Like in principle, they are just fine. You can leave it like this and just lay it out like horizontally, and it's fine. But we could always do one more. So first, let's get the principles right, and we did. This is a good size, good font, and we did. Then we could make it more interesting. So I'm thinking to make it all the links in a pill container. So I'm going to create a frame and call it link zero gap. Maybe it's somewhere over 16 pixels by 16 pixels. Then we could have it with a stroke, a black stroke. Uh, Obviously here, I think we selected, okay, we have to make this a variable instead of a color style. So we can say white 100, and it's actually a variable now. Okay, then we give it a white background, and let's make it, okay, so 100 pixel border radius. We can actually make it 999 to be safer. Okay, so now we can actually make this a bit wider, maybe 20 by a bit lower, maybe 14, too wide, maybe 16. I think that's good. Now this is more of an interesting link. So we could also do that for all of them. We can just copy, duplicate, about, products, and services. Also, I forgot one, which is contact. Let's remove these. So now let's just group them, make them a bit close to each other. 16 here works fine. Okay, we could say these are the links. Now we have a couple of issues here. The first thing is we need an indicator of the current section that the user is on. So we know that the user is on the home page since this is the landing page of the website. So to make a distinction, we could just select our brand color and give it that. Okay, that is obviously like we can see that the home is the current page. Now, the second thing is that we have spoken about the contact, and we have said that the contact is the primary idea or the primary purpose of the website. So we need a way to emphasize that. The easiest way, I think, is to give it a different color. I'm thinking of using a secondary color, which is this kind of lime or greenish color. So I'm just going to call this, I think it's more of a lime, right? So lime 500, maybe it's a 600, but we're going to call it 500. Okay, so we're going to restrict ourselves to using black, white, this background color, and the lime, uh, and the pink. Okay, so if we select it, you can see like all our colors, and actually let's make this black. We remove that sometime. Okay, so we have the nav bar, and we have the nav links, and we have the identity. So we can create a nav bar here, just group them, rename this nav bar, uh, and we can just use a default grid system here. We can add a grid, change it from grid to columns, change it from 5 to 12, and we can just put this here, make it wider, align it to the top, to the center, and give it a padding of 16 pixels. Okay, that looks great. So let's just recap before moving on to the hero section. So here we have learned something that will be, let's just remove this, that we will be using throughout the website. So we have seen that after creating the primary like layout or the primary idea of the website, of the section, like we created the links, you can go over and change the links to be uh, more interesting. So that applies everywhere in your website or UI UX design. You need to first focus on creating the primary content of the website. Then from there you can add points of interest. You can make it more interesting. Uh, okay, so what's next? Next, we want to create a hero section, right? So in the hero section, we always have um, like elements that are always common. For example, in a hero section, we should always have a headline. So the headline here will be find the right therapist easily and confidently. This will be our headline, and we will make this a bit bigger, 48 pixels. I think is a good size. We're gonna make this semi-bold. Okay, so this will be our headline. Then we need a sub-headline. In turn, this will be 14 pixels. Uh, let's just write it out. Connect. Where's the text? I'm just gonna type it out. So it doesn't really matter what text you use. We're just gonna be focusing on the layout more. Okay, so this will be our text, and let's change it to regular. So this is our sub-headline, this is our headline, our sub-headline, and we always have call to actions. So the first call to action will be a get started, which is another way of saying contact us. But instead of just saying contact us, in the here when you use it in a hero section, the call to actions should be more vibrant, should convey more feelings. So get started would do that more than just saying contact us. So 16 pixels regular. We can create a triangle here using basic Figma shapes. We can just say we can create this triangle, we can flatten it out, we can name it accent, rotate it minus 90 degrees, give it a bit of border radius. Then obviously we will need to make it black. Actually, let's go over here and change these to be our variable color. Okay, let's make this smaller, in a sense, 14 pixels. Okay, now we can group them and say primary. I'm just saying primary because we're going to be like enclosing them in a layout. Like we're going to be saying call to action, and we're going to be having a primary call to action, which is this button, and sort of a secondary call to action, which is another one we'll just be creating right now. So I'm gonna name this primary, and I'm gonna give it maybe a bit smaller, 8 pixel, maybe 10 pixels could work. 12 pixels, I think, it's fine. A padding will be 32 and 16, and we're gonna be give it a fill color of the pink we've been using throughout, and obviously we're gonna be continuing with the style and give it a corner radius of 99. So obviously when you start using a corner radius like this, you would like to use it here too. So obviously we are using borders here, which are sharp and full black borders, and we can experiment with it and actually just give it the same thing here. So what makes your design good is actually consistency. So if your design feels consistent, in a way, your whole website will feel better looking, because if your brain is trained so that it finds consistency more appealing to visually more appealing. So as you give it more consistency, it will turn out to be more visually appealing. But as you make stuff different, it will give a feel of cluttered. So if maybe this is a different font and this is a different font, these all are different fonts and I randomly sparkling colors, that will make it feel inconsistent, and thus it will make it feel cluttered. And that's why most of your designs might feel like that. It's because they lack consistency. So I'm just going to duplicate this and rename this secondary. And for our secondary colors, I'm just going to open a Figma file for where I actually get all my icons from. This is the file actually. It's called XNIX icon pack. You can actually find it in the Figma community. I really recommend it. So I'm just gonna go to the line icon section, and I'm just gonna search for video. Actually, we can just find it here, I think. Here it is. So this is the video icon. We can just copy it, and instead of this accent here, we can replace it with this accent. And okay, this should be 14 pixel. Okay, something wrong happened here. Okay, so we can name this icon and make this 14 pixels. Okay, then we want to, instead of saying get started here, we want to say explainer video. And actually, something we can do is we can move this here. Now, you might say, what about consistency? But sometimes you can break your own rules, because here I think it looks better. Sometimes it's a problem with just looking at your design and deciding what works and what doesn't. Like when I see this design right here, I'm feeling that this feels smaller because the way the icon is designed. So I'm just gonna make it 16 pixels. Another thing here is instead of pink, I'm gonna make it white because I don't want it to like have to take more attention than it needs to. Also, let's just go over here and make this black. Uh, so regarding the color here, we would actually want it to be a bit darker. A bit darker here. I think this will. And we can name this white 800. So for the background. So this is a style actually, and this is a variable. That's the reason. And now you can see like a distinction between, even if we remove the borders, you can see a sort of distinction between the background and the actual button background, whilst previously it was non-existing. Okay, so these are like the four sections, right? The four things, or the three things if we count the call to actions as one. These are the three things you always have in a hero section, but you can also have uh, an image in your hero section, which is very common. And for that, we're going to go to Unsplash, and we're going to pick out an image. So I'm just going to say person smiling, because this is like related to therapy. Uh, and I believe there was a good image somewhere. I'm just gonna scroll for a bit and try to find it. Okay, so this is the actual image. I'm just importing it here. And right away, as I look at this image, I see something we can improve. So obviously this is a vibrant image. So instead of like using it directly, what we can do is we can reduce the saturation. We don't have to make it completely black and white, but we can just reduce its saturation in a bit. So like giving it a feel, a dramatic sort of feel, which I like in a website. So if you don't have an image actually prepared, so if you're using just assets from the internet, uh, you have to make it fit with your overall website, and sometimes making it fully unsaturated is good. But this time I think we can use it as just slightly desaturated. Okay, so we have these parts. We can now move over to the parts where we could just lay them out. So first, the headline. Uh, okay, we can make it like this. So obviously you don't want it to span the full width. And the subheadline, it's a good idea to always make it the same or a bit smaller. So I'm just going to make it the same here. So I'm just going to group these, and I'm just going to name them headline in general. I'm going to give them 16 pixel gap. And yeah, I think this is what you want here. Okay, this is our headline and our subheadline then. Next, we want to group our call to actions. So we're just going to call this CTAs. And now you can see why we named this primary and secondary. So primary CTA, secondary CTA. So obviously we want to reduce the size between them. 24 might work. Maybe 24, maybe 16. Let's try 16. 16 works too, so I'm just going to leave it 16 to be more consistent. Then we could just put it together and call it content. Then let's reduce it actually to 32 maybe. Yeah. Okay, so it's a good rule. What I actually tell my students is you need, if you're a beginner especially, you would want your letters. You would want your gaps and numbers, like font sizes, numbers. You want them to be a multiple of 6 and 8. So for example, 32 is obviously a multiple of both 6 and 8. Uh, Here 16 is obviously a multiple of 8. 60, so here 8 again, here 16. So you have to be consistent, okay? So just keep in mind. Obviously, sometimes you break this rule as this is 14, which is neither, but is like an in-between number, so which is most of the time used in web development. So you don't want to have to worry about that. Okay, then you have to place the image here. And okay, we could have a hero section like this. And again, in principle, this is correct. Okay, so in principle, if you just provide this hero section as a design, there is like nothing objectively wrong with it. It adheres to all uh, design principles. It has good contrast, visual hierarchy, everything works here. But again, what we can do is we can first set up our correct content form, then we could add more interest. How do we add more interest starting from this? First thing, I would like to use a two-column approach. So it's been some time since it has been some time since I used a two-column approach, and I think it's fading away these days. Not as many people are using it, but today I would like to use it. So maybe we can make this image take the full width here and put it on the background. And this actually looks nice. Okay, so now we could just lay it out here. Again, you look at it, it's more interesting than the previous one, but still, nothing has reduced from its principles. It has good design principles. Everything objectively is correct here. Okay, so how do we add more points of interest? Easy. We can start by addressing this huge empty space. So there is too much empty space here, which we can actually utilize and make into extra content. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Obviously, first of all, we could add a banner here. A banner is like it's becoming more and more popular today. Uh, it's becoming more and more popular today, so we can actually add a banner here. Let's just create it. So let's say let's make 2025 the best 2025 actually the best year. Okay, so this will be our banner. We're gonna go with 14 regular. Okay, everything's fine here. Then we would like to go use the star here shape in Figma, and this is actually a very powerful shape. So let's make it 16 pixel. Give it a bit of corner radius, like 0.5, and the color will be changed from plain color to a linear color. So it will go from our pink here to a more of a blue color here. This kind of color, gradient. So now we would also want to change it from 5 into maybe 10 or 12, maybe 8. Let's put it 8 and just increase the size a bit. Okay. We would also like to flatten it. I always like to flatten my shapes to make them easier to work with. So I'm just going to say accent. Here on each side. Then we can group them. Give it an 8 pixel gap. Center align it. We can call this banner. Then again 999 corner radius 16 by 16. Uh, then we could actually give it a white fill, which we've been using throughout. Okay, so we have to change this to, I'm not going to be worrying about the variables too much today, but it's a good idea to keep them organized. Okay, so this is like a banner here we can use, and we can just directly insert it to the headline, right? Okay, so we could also make it span, okay, also, then we can make it span the full width of the headline. Okay, so you can see obviously when you look at it now, there's an extra point of visual interest. So the design is obviously becoming more and more interesting. Let's actually change this from white 900, which I understand now is incorrect, to be white. And we can actually change this from 800, we can make it a bit lighter. Okay, so again, the white 900 should be white. Okay, so now we have this design which is simply improving. Okay, so we are improving readily, we are steadily improving our design. So when we talk about making a hero section interesting, you first have to start with the bare minimum. So we started by just creating an image, central aligning everything, this didn't exist, and we just kept adding more and more points of visual interest. And now we are at this point where this is very interesting, but we can still make it better. How do we make it better? One thing is we can utilize the free space here again. So we could actually create feature containers. So this is very simple. First of all, we can say that over 5,000 people have used the the service, and are loving it. So we can just say 5,000 plus, uh, over 5,000 satisfied users have now embarked on a new life. Something like that. Regular, then 14. Okay, we could put this in a container. Let's group this. Maybe 8, maybe 16 pixels, maybe 24. Give it a bit of space. I think 16 works fine here though. Sometimes you just have to eye stuff, and we can name this feature. Then we could give this a a padding of 16 by 16, then a corner radius of 8. We can't give it a corner radius of 999 since this is a rectangle. This contains content, too much content. So you use pill shape containers for small content. This contains too much content, so we can't really do that. Okay, we could give it a fill of white, a stroke again. Then actually we could change this 32. I think that looks better. Then we could first let's duplicate this since we want two features. But for this feature, I would like to have this kind of accent here, the star. Duplicate this. And so you see now, by adding this accent here, now we have a clear visual style. So this means we can go over all our websites and add this visual style and make it our own. Here, instead of making this such star, I would like to create a new star. Just draw inspiration from this. Make this height 24. Give it the same gradient from the pink to the blue. And make this from 5 to 4 counts of sides, I think. And make this a bit rounded, 1.5, I think. It's a good number here. we can Control Alt O, then we can flatten it again and just say accents, and we can just drag it and drop it here and just auto layout it with the title, 8 pixel gap, and we can say head title, we can say. And now this is more interesting. Now for this one, I'm not gonna delve more in detail. Let's actually increase this size, actually, sorry. This should be 24. But we're gonna make it very simple. We're gonna say 100. We can actually leave this text as it is, but yeah, let's actually leave it as it. We don't want to. We want to save time on it. So we can actually make this the lime color, and now this is more interesting. So now we can group these and name this features. After that, we can make this 16 pixel gap, and now we have another information of our website and another points of visual interest. Okay, so now we can group these and say also so that we can, after positioning it, we can call this main because this is the main content of the hero section. So let's center align it. Okay, now this looks good. Okay, so obviously this is like a well-designed hero section, and it's enough for most of your needs actually. But there is one last thing we can add. Okay, one last thing which will actually give the hero section more of a purpose. So there is a new trend where with the hero section people are showing testimonies, so we can actually add that. So how do we do that? First, let's kind of make like this person is maybe a user of the platform, so let's actually give him a fictional name, Andrew Christensen, some fictional name, make this 24, semi-bold 32 maybe. Okay, 32. Let's give him 14. Regular, this should be white. Let's give him like a testimony. I command sorry, I can't spell today. For some reason, I recommend everyone to use this platform as it helped me a lot going through mental health issues, something like this. And we can just zoom out, and we would actually want to also maybe give a rating system. So we are already using like stars here, so why can't we use a rating system? So I'm just going to create a small star here, Control Alt O again to make it outline the stroke and then flatten it. I'm just going to name this star here. It will indicate a rating point. Give it a 24, maybe a 24 pixel width here. Then we're going to keep border radius 1.5, and we're going to change the color to be lime. Now we could go gold, but I don't think we need to do that as we're already using lime here, and we can reuse that. So okay, let's give it one border corner radius, one here too. Okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we can group these and say rating 8 pixel gap. Very simple. Now we move this here. So now you can see that there is some points where the contrast isn't well. Here, for example, this black shade isn't consistent as this white shade and the white text doesn't work well together. So what we can do here is we can actually first let's select this and say content, and let's select this together. It will be testimony. This will be maybe 16 probably. This will be 32. Okay, then let's actually give it a stroke black, a border of 8 pixels, 16 by 16, and okay, I think this is well. Now what we want to do is we want to actually give it a background and make it white, and we want the white to be only 1%. And you might be asking what's the point, and I'm going to show you. So let's actually make the stroke white first of all. And the point is now we can go over to effects and add an effect. You can go and select background blur, and you can now increase it maybe a number of 64. And now we have glass morphism into our design. So you're seeing how slowly but surely our design is becoming more and more interesting. Now we already have glass morphism in this design. So it's already like very interesting design visually, while not losing its core aspect, while still being principled. Okay, so we can just fix this here. Maybe constant 24 by 24 I would like to be. Maybe 32 on the sides to make it give it more space. Okay, so we have this design now. So we have worked on it. We have started very simple. The design, if you remember, it was very simple. It was very minimal. Then we kept adding detail and points of visual interest. We weren't just adding shapes and whatnot. We were adding actual useful content. For example, this features, this banner. We are adding points of interest that make sense in the position they are in. So I tried to cover as much as possible, both in terms of hero section and general design principles in this video. Thanks for watching. I really hope you learned something from this video. Again, if you want private mentorship, I offer that. Just DM me on my X account. So I will leave the handle down in the description. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Until next time, goodbye.